Well, we're back right here on Hala Ramadan, and we have with us our first guest this evening right here in the studio. We have with us Dr. Nicola Guest, and Dr. Nicola is the head of nutrition at Dasman Diabetes Institute. Dr. Nicola, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. And before we start, I'd like to say happy Ramadan to everybody. Ramadan Mubarak. I hope everyone is having a blessed day.
Well, it's so nice to have you with us right here in the studio, Dr. Nicola. And today is the first day of the holy month of Ramadan, and we'd like to ask you now some general advice now for people who want, when they break their fast for the iftar time. What general advice would you have for our audience about that, please?
Great. So this is really important. So breaking the fast really sets the stage for what you're going to eat over the night. And obviously for lots of people, you've been fasting all day, you want to celebrate, and there's always, especially in Kuwait, lots of delicious food. And it can be very tempting just to launch yourself at the food and eat a lot very quickly. And there are two reasons not to do that. The first reason, it can be uncomfortable on your stomach.
Yeah, especially you've been fasting for a
lot
of hours,
and you might be dehydrated.
Right.
So the first tip that I would give people, that I would recommend, drink some water, take it slow, and maybe have 1 or 2 dates, something very light. And then maybe go and pray. And so during this time, you can rehydrate, get a bit of energy, go and pray, and then come back, and then hopefully you can eat more slowly. So that the key tip for me when you're breaking your fast is do so mindfully and slowly, and then you can enjoy yourself a bit more.
Yeah, that's very good advice. We don't want people just, going right into the food like that, and can get food a coma then even.
Food coma, exactly. And it can make you really uncomfortable.
Right.
It can give you indigestion.
Sure. That's some good tips there. And then after the iftar, people then in between futur and suhoor, there's something called the ghabga, which is here where you have also like lavish buffets and a lot of food there, and also so you have to be careful. A lot of sweets are also desserts are included in that. So, tell us, what do you recommend for our audience when it comes to the that snack in between futur and suhoor?
That is a great point. So first, I'd just like to go back to breaking a fast. So the main iftar meal, by eating sensibly in the iftar meal, you can stop snacking so much during the night. So when you break your fast, a really good idea is to go for foods like lamb and vegetables, which are rich in nutrients, they've got protein, and they'll fill you up and make you feel quite satisfied, so that when it comes to those snacks during the night, you don't tend to overindulge. If people don't eat enough, or they don't eat enough protein when they're breaking their fast, that can cause a lack of willpower maybe, or an impulse to eat too much for the snacks. So let's come to the ghabga, little snacks. So the danger here is nearly all of these foods are high in sugar, high in fat. They look beautiful, and there's lots of them.
Very tempting.
Very tempting indeed. So my advice is to enjoy them, but do so in moderation. So really good tips are to have other things lying around, like olives, maybe some cheese, maybe something light, so you can have some foods that aren't so high in sugar, but also enjoy the sugary snacks as well.
Yeah, Dr. Nicola, a part of Ramadan and breaking the fast, and then there's a lot of traditional sweets.
Absolutely, yes.
And people like to have them.
Sure.
So what's your advice on that? I mean, they can still have some, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. But let's think about, you could have 1 or 2 or 10. And especially because it's during the night, it's a wonderful celebration, you're with family and friends, and in that environment, it's very easy to just, someone offers you one, you have
just
one,
start nibbling,
then
and
a friend
more.
offers you one, and before you know it, you've had 10 or 15. So I would say stick to 1 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So food intake, it's a very important thing to manage yourself during the evening time, correct?
Correct. Because let's think, Ramadan lasts for a month. And if every night you're overindulging, what can happen is over Ramadan, you can gain 2 kilograms. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but most people don't lose weight after Ramadan. So this year you gain 2, the next year you gain 2, the next year you gain 2, and then you can be 10 kilos heavier without even realizing it. And so it's really important, because it's a month-long celebration and people observe it for a month, that people are mindful of what they're eating every night.
What about water intake? I think that's also fluid intake is very important, Dr. Nicola.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
Of course. So one thing about fluid intake is a lot of people don't know, but dehydration can can manifest as hunger. So actually, if you're thirsty, you can feel like you're hungry.
Oh, okay.
So it's important to be hydrated well because of that. But obviously, without being able to drink all day, it's important to stay hydrated during the night and to rehydrate. So fluid is important. But then we come to what kind of fluid.
Yes.
So this is where it's really important to minimize fruit juices and also things like Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola goes without saying.
Fizzy soft drinks, not good, huh?
Fizzy soft drinks, any energy drinks, Coca-Cola, lemonade, 7-Up, they are all so high in sugar. So my advice to anyone who likes those products is choose the diet version. Coke Zero, I think, tastes the same as regular Coke.
Sure.
Have that and no sugar.
Okay.
But I would really like to emphasize that fruit juices are as sugary as Coke.
They are.
So yeah, so lots of people think, oh, but it's orange, it's healthy, it's a fruit.
Yeah.
The whole fruit is wonderful. It's a healthy product with lots of fiber and vitamins and minerals. Great. But when you drink it, there's way more sugar than was ever intended by nature, because they might put 10 oranges in the glass, essentially, and that's the sugar from 10 oranges. So if I could really emphasize the advice that consider fruit juice during Ramadan like Coke. So enjoy maybe a glass of orange juice, but the rest of the time...
But try to avoid that.
Yes.
What about tea and coffee? Those are also very popular in Ramadan, especially the Arabic coffee.
Which is
delicious. And they like to have that all throughout the night.
Absolutely.
You know, sitting with family members, visiting and so forth. So what's your opinion on that, please?
The Arabic coffee is delicious.
It is, yes it is.
Absolutely fine to enjoy tea or coffee. Milk is fine to have with it, but avoid adding sugar. Because remember, you're also having some of those sweet snacks. If you add some sugar into the coffee and tea, that's even more sugar. Having artificial sweeteners, so things like Sweetex or the products that you can put in to sweeten it but don't have sugar, they're absolutely fine.
Dr. Nicola, how do you deal then with the hunger that strikes, when you're fasting for so long, the fatigue that may come along with it? To elaborate, tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Well, so there are two reasons for this. I mean, firstly, because you're changing your eating patterns and your body's used to receiving food at certain times.
Yes.
It can be a shock, especially the first week and a half of Ramadan. But this is where planning your food intake overnight really helps, and particularly the suhoor meal.
Yeah, tell us now, the suhoor meal.
Yes.
What do you recommend would be good things to eat then, so you can go through the whole day? Let's say people work, they go to school and so forth, and we are getting into a hot period too,
yes,
so people will feel thirsty. And tell us more.
Yeah, so the key thing is to think about foods that release their energy slowly. So all foods have energy, that keeps us going, but certain foods release that energy very quickly. And a good example is sugar. Think of a can of Coke. Your body can absorb that sugar quickly. It enters your bloodstream, but then you get rid of it. So guess what happens? Half an hour later, you're hungry. Now imagine you're going the whole day without eating anything. So you want foods that release their energy slowly so they can keep you going for longer. So what are those foods? I advise patients and the public to enjoy some carbohydrates. Those are starchy foods like rice, pasta, bread, cereals, but try to choose the whole grain versions, so the high fiber versions, because the fiber stops the sugar being absorbed so quickly, and so the energy from it lasts longer. So that's really important. The second thing is protein foods, things like lamb, cheese, eggs, dairy products, also help to keep you fuller for longer. Your stomach actually empties more slowly if you fill your stomach with protein and fat as well. So carbohydrates should be high fiber, enjoy some protein foods, and then healthy fats, because fats make the food empty more slowly from your stomach. So things like olive oil is very healthy, things like avocados, even some fatty meats can be perfectly fine. In terms of what to drink in the suhoor meal, I would advise against fruit juice and against any sugary product, because like I said, blood sugar goes up, it comes down, you're hungry again. So if people have a fluid, a good idea is something like milk. A milky tea, for example, will keep you fuller for longer.
What about the water now? Let's say from your break your fast to suhoor. How many liters should you have to keep you hydrated? What do you recommend?
This is very, very individual, but it would depend also on exercise, how much exercise people are doing. But I think at least 3/4 of a litre, up to 1.5 litres is sensible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you just brought up exercise. Exercise is very important also.
Sure, yeah.
To keep you going, keep your nutrition, everything all balanced together, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Elaborate on that a little bit, please.
So a lot of people become or maybe concerned during Ramadan because they're not eating so much or they're eating at different times that they can't exercise.
Yeah.
I advise against that. I think it's important to enjoy some exercise during Ramadan, but do so lightly. So if people are feeling lightheaded, maybe dehydrated, don't go for a run or do any strenuous exercise. But if people feel perfectly well, they were fed during the night, they've had a lot of fluid and they feel good, going for a light walk, doing some light exercise is a really good idea.
Okay. Sleep also can be a little disturbed also.
Yes.
So what do you recommend about that? I mean, trying to get enough hours of good quality sleep in order to function correctly.
Absolutely.
And I think when you have a lack of sleep, you also, that hunger thing comes in, right?
Yes, correct. I'm glad you said that. That's a great point. So what's really important to understand about sleep deprivation is it makes you feel hungry. We know that now equivocally. So getting as much sleep as you can is really important. But this is going to be really individual and based on people's circumstances. I think it's a good idea. A way that works well is to take a nap during the night, and also if people can, a nap during the day as well, if that's possible. 2 to 3 hours if possible at night, the same thing in the middle of the day. But some people are working during the day and that's a problem. But I would emphasize if you're feeling tired, even just lying down, closing your eyes for an hour can really help stave the feeling of fatigue. People can feel cold as well, even in this heat. If you're sleep deprived, you can feel cold, and that again makes you feel hungrier. So prioritizing sleep, however you can do it, is a good idea.
It's important to get enough sleep
Absolutely,
to
yes.
have a very good month of Ramadan.
Absolutely.
Well, it's such a pleasure to have you with us this evening right here on Hala Ramadan.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words or comments or any more bit of advice for the audience tuning in this evening, Dr. Nicola?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say everybody have a blessed month. Enjoy Ramadan, celebrate it, but always be mindful of your health and have a wonderful evening.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Nicola, for being our guest this evening. We'd like to thank Dr. Nicola Guess, Head of Nutrition at Dasman Diabetes Institute, for valuable insight and time with us this evening right here on Hala Ramadan.